Imagine taking a simple sounding job, running errands for the cartel boss, then ending up executed on camera.
Tu nombre? Eric Gámez García. Tu nombre? Bernal Gámez Castro.
We always knew cartels are a brutal dog-eat-dog world. But until recently, we didn't have access to the full brutality of Mexican cartels. Today, cartels use technological advancements and the world's obsession with social media to show the true nature of their senseless violence. And instead of putting the worst kingpins in prison, these videos only end up making them more famous, such as the case of Felix Gámez García and Barnabas Gámez Castro, the Sinaloa cartel members who met the most gruesome fate on camera. And they weren't even top dogs, kingpins, or rich in any way. They pay me very little. They don't pay me a lot. The last time they gave me 300 pesos. Meanwhile, their killers spread a terrifying message, and it got millions of views. Trigger warning. This case contains very graphic descriptions of extreme violence and murder. This is your chance to turn back. Famous shows such as Narcos show the many sides of working for a notorious cartel.
Plata
Silver
o plomo.
or lead. But they tend to focus on the lavish lifestyle of the cartel kingpins and the top dogs that surround them. So it sounds like, although there is a great risk in working for a cartel, at least you're rewarded generously and you can make cash quicker than any other career. That's wrong though. Most cartel members make little money and expose themselves to risks just as big, if not bigger. Because if you get caught by a rival cartel, you meet a fate that's worse than death. In the 2010s, Felix Gámez García and Barnabas Gámez Castro were working for the notorious Sinaloa cartel. Sinaloa was led by Joaquin Guzman, aka El Chapo. But as of 2018, he's in a maximum security prison in the United States. In fact, it's the highest security prison in the country, and it's very unlikely that he will ever be released. So there are two other top dogs that have replaced him. On the one hand, his four sons. Judy, they are known as Los Chapitos, the four most trusted sons of the world's most notorious kingpin. On the other hand, the mysterious Ismael Zambada, aka El Mayo, who is still eluding justice. But just because El Mayo and Los Chapitos keep a lower profile than El Chapo, doesn't mean the Sinaloa cartel is not as bloody. The United States intelligence community puts the Sinaloa cartel as one of the most powerful narcotics trafficking organizations in the world. They are also amongst the most dangerous organizations, with over 100,000 people working for the cartel and an entire special trained army. The Sinaloa easily takes out rivals, police officers, and even civilians in outrageous shootouts. But sometimes, Sinaloa members get caught by rival cartels. And sometimes, internal conflicts mean Sinaloa members kill other Sinaloa members. When Felix Gámez García and his uncle, Barnabas Gámez Castro, got caught, they were beaten miserably, stripped, and put against a wall in front of a camera.
Tu nombre? Eric Gámez García. Tu nombre? Bernal Gámez Castro. Soy de Cuigaloma.
First, the two were interrogated about their work for the Sinaloa cartel. Felix once went by Paulino and sold narcotics in Phoenix, Arizona. But in June 2011, age 26, he was arrested and charged with a dangerous drug possession for sale. Eventually, he was sent back to Mexico. Once home, Felix went even deeper into the Sinaloa cartel's business. He was tasked with carrying messages to and from El Cholo. He was the kingpin of the Nueva Plaza cartel, a smaller cartel supported financially by the Sinaloa. El Cholo was a big shot in many ways. Reportedly, he was amongst those who led the Sinaloa cartel after El Chapo's arrest. But in 2020, the war between Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartel, known as the CJ&G, was at an all-time high. Desperate to end the war, El Cholo sided with the Mexican police. A couple of days later, his body was found on a bench, wrapped in a plastic bag. Two knives were stuck in his body, holding a sign reading, "The traitor, El Cholo." Indeed, CJ&G has become known as the most brutal cartel in Mexico, perhaps the most brutal cartel to ever exist. Which brings us back to our video. Felix had told his captors how he worked for El Cholo within the Sinaloa cartel. Now, it was his uncle's turn. Barnabas said that he started working for the cartel through his nephew, Felix. But much like his nephew, he had never killed anyone. In fact, Barnabas was an errand boy for El Cholo. At the time of his capture, he was working on getting a 3/4-ton pickup released after it had been confiscated by the police. In the past, he'd taken radios to a colonel the Sinaloa had on their payroll. Here's the real tragic twist. They pay me very little. They don't pay me a lot. The last time they gave me 300 pesos. 300 pesos is about $15 or 10 pounds. Barnabas risked his freedom, his life, and the lives of his family for $15 errands. Was he so financially stressed that he saw no other option but to work for the cartel? Or was he unaware of its danger when his nephew roped him in? After describing his job and his very low wages, Barnabas went on to say that he knows he shouldn't steal from the cartel. He also said that his and his nephew's lives were now completely worthless just because they chose to mingle with the wrong people. He clearly regretted his decision to join the cartel and wishes his nephew had steered clear of the Sinaloa from the get-go. Wait, so this wasn't the Jalisco New Generation cartel taking prisoners from the rival cartel? Nope. This was their own cartel, Sinaloa, taking their revenge after they claimed Felix and Barnabas had stolen from them. The revenge included a video. This way, they could send a message to any other cartel member thinking of stealing from the cartel. Warning, the following get really graphic. After Barnabas finished his discourse on regrets, he knew he was about to die. Both he and Felix kept a serene, non-confrontational attitude as if they accepted their fates. They knew it wasn't worth kicking or screaming. They would just be subdued that way. And incredibly, they maintained this attitude even when a chainsaw came inches close to Barnabas's neck. Barnabas was decapitated in front of his nephew, his lifeless body falling on Felix as he tried not to watch. Finally, Felix sneaked a peek at Barnabas's bloody corpse. It's heart-wrenching to think this was the last thing he saw, right before his terrifying death. Barnabas's life was taken in a matter of seconds. In a way, this was the Sinaloa cartel showing mercy to him. He'd only been their employee for a short time, and it was Felix who roped him in. So when it came to Felix, the cartel killers used a machete, slowly taking away his head while he struggled for 2 long minutes. When they were done, the killers held Felix's head, showing it to the camera, then placed it on his torso. This was a message to the Sinaloa cartel members and anyone who might be thinking of crossing the cartel. Before we go any further, I must mention this. Please don't go looking for any actual video of the murders. It's a truly gruesome thing to see, and it only does bad. Several YouTube users have commented about watching the video and being severely traumatized by such things. This is the first gore video I ever saw. For weeks I struggled to sleep at night. I'd hear the sounds of gurgling noises replaying in my head. Sometimes you forget that humans can be the scariest monsters that exist in real life. I remember watching this video as a child on an easily accessible gore site. I truly believe my ignorance and freedom as a child watching stuff like this is the reason for some of my problems and desensitized mind. I had a friend that watches these kinds of gore videos with real murders or accidents, and after a while, I noticed a big change in him. I believe it killed a part of his soul, and he's super desensitized. Lesson to take from this: don't desensitize yourselves with this kind of real-life violence. We all have that morbid curiosity, but it's not worth our time, energy, and mental distress to make these cartel kingpins even more famous. You might think, well, I'm sure these kinds of things don't happen too often, even in the cartels. But the sad reality is they've been happening for a long time, and now the violence has reached an all-time high. When the Los Zetas cartel split from the Gulf cartel in 2010, they brought an unprecedented level of brutality in Mexico. Kidnappings, torture, bombings, beheadings, and civil murder started terrorizing the country on a daily basis.
They also prepare guisos. These are stews where you take a member of the family and you put them in a pig boiler and you pour gasoline on them and then you set a match to them.
After Los Zetas came to Jalisco New Generation Cartel, much like the Zetas, they had their own army of specially trained soldiers, and they valued violence for the sake of violence.
Sides of the border.
The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho.
Sadly, it's often police officers and civilians who take the worst hit. I told my children, get up. I don't know what's going on in the street. Get dressed and let's go. Everything started exploding. There was no power. Everything exploding. Tanks, trucks. I lost my daughter and children there. As Mexican cartels grew bigger, more violent, and more ruthless, they encouraged each other to become even more violent. If you want to keep up and still be the country's strongest narcotics trafficking organization, you have to adapt to the new rules. So the Sinaloa cartel became worse and worse.
Going on 13 years old the first time I took a life. It's just one day, got invited to Mexico. I didn't know what was going on at first. And I see about 6 people kneeling down. Then the individual, the person in charge, they start laughing, and I think they saw that scared, panicked look in my face and asked me if I had ever killed somebody.
The cartels imbued their very young recruits with fear and a sense of kill or be killed. If you want to look powerful and have the cartel's respect, you will have to maim and kill for them.
I've done the simple stuff that everybody starts doing, pulling teeth out, cutting fingers up slowly.
Here's where the conversation becomes a bit complicated. Do these cartel members, when they're caught and subjected to the worst imaginable treatment, deserve their fate? Do they even have a choice when joining the cartel? How old are they? How impoverished is their background? And do they even know what they're stepping into? And how guilty are you just by working for a notorious cartel? Remember, Felix and Barnabas were Aaron's people. As far as everyone knows, they never took a life, and yet they were treated like the worst criminals by the worst criminals. Violence only leads to violence, and in a world where we can easily share or see such things online, this is even more dangerous. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments section. And before you go, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more. See you all next time.